So we're going to talk about surface area today for rectangular prisms and also triangular prisms, possibly cylinders. I doubt if we'll get that far. So let's look at what a rectangular cylinder is. And yes, I have it home, so I'm using what I have. So here is a rectangular prism. A rectangular prism means that it's just a rectangle, but it's three-dimensional. And when you look at this, you can see that there are many sides. So if I want to find the surface area, I have to find the area of this side, and 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 this side. So a lot of times what's easier is if we realize, look at this, okay, this side right here, isn't it also this side right here? And this side right here, isn't that also the same as this side right back here? And this side right here is the same as this side. So we can understand how to do it. Now what sometimes is tricky is we have to take a two-dimensional object and imagine it as a three-dimensional object. So if you have if you have three colors, or if you have a pencil and a pen and another color, that'd be nice. If you want to, pause the video right now and go and find a different color if you need to borrow one from your neighbor, or get into my supplies cabinet. At the back of the room there'll be colored pencils and crayons you can get in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and color every side. So we're going to look at this side right here, and I'm going to look at this front side. Okay? And I want to find the area of this front side right here. Well, look at that. If I'm looking at this, see how it's this segment right here, and this segment right here. So I would, in order to find the surface area, I'm going to take this. Now let's actually label them too. So this is going to be my length, this will be my width, and this will be my height. Now it doesn't matter which one you call which, but you do need to kind of indicate what's what so it makes it easier. So to find this first one, I'm going to take the length times the height. So I'm going to take the length times the height. And again, I use a cursive L so you'll know that it's not a 1. So there's length times height. But how many of those do I have? I have 2 of them, right? So I take that times 2. Okay, now let's take another color. Doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to pick this one right back here. Okay, and that segment right there is going to be the width times the height. So width times height. And how many of those do I have? 2 of them. One more side. I'm going to do what's called probably the top. Color that top in. Okay, and what is that? Well, that is, if you look at it, that's the length, and that's the width. Length and width. And how many of those do I have? Well, I have a top and a bottom, so I have 2 of those. Okay, so notice that you're going to use the length twice. You're going to use the height twice. You're going to use the width twice. Okay, so that's always going to happen. And this could be a formula, but I wouldn't write it down and memorize it. I would just kind of every single time notice it. But you're welcome to write that down also. Okay, that would be the formula probably for a surface area. It doesn't matter what order, but just the length is twice, height is twice, width is twice. So now we're just going to plug everything in. So 2 times the length times the height plus 2 times the width and the height, and 2 times the length and the width. Now you can just pull out your calculator and just plug all that information in. Here we go. Now I'm going to do this just plugging it in to my calculator. I'm going to write down that number. But because I'm doing it all in a calculator, I'm going to go ahead and do it again just to make sure that I'm right. Because it's so easy to hit the wrong button. I got 52 twice. Okay, now we're talking about area. We're talking about surface area. And remember, what we want to do is find out how many squares. Okay, so this is going to be meters squared. Okay, now right now I'd love it if you were here with me so I could ask you which one to do next. So I'm just going to pick one that maybe looks like it's complicated. Those first 2 look okay. People freak out about decimals, so maybe we'll take that one. Or this one's kind of freaky as to what it means. So let's pick one. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, I'm not going to take all your time in doing that. I'm going to just do 4. Okay, so number 4. If I'm doing number 4, I know that I'm going to find surface area. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label everything. So this is a width, a length, and a height. And I know that I have to do 2 of each of them. So 2 times the width and the length, plus 2 times the length and the height, plus 2 times the height and the width. Now I'm going to double check. I have width twice, I have length twice, I have height twice. So I know I've done everything. So I just kind of double check that every time to make sure that I don't repeat anything. Now I'm just kind of plugged it in. Now I could color it, makes it way more fun, but I'm not going to right now. You're welcome to. So the width is 2.5 and the length is 2. Now I have the length and the height, and I have the height and the width. Cram it in there. Okay, good. Take out your calculator and let's multiply all of that. And the nice thing about a video is if you miss something, you can go back and replay it and pause it and everything else. So here we go. We're going to multiply this in. I already messed up. I got 73. I'm going to double check and make sure I'm right. And it is 73 both times that I did that. And now we're in meters, so it's going to be meters squared. Okay? So that is rectangular prisms. And again, if it is helpful to color those in, or if it's more fun, that's fine too. On the back, you'll see all of the homework and what's going to be expected of you. And we'll see how far we get as far as what we want to do. The next thing I want to do, though, is I want to look at number 7 and 8, and I want to draw in those shapes. So find the surface area of a rectangular prism that has a length, width, and height. You wouldn't have to. You could just go through and make sure that you have each one of them. But I want you to be able to I want to make sure you know how to draw one of these. So I'm going to actually drop down to number 8 so I have a little more space. In order to draw one of these, what you do is you draw a parallelogram. Then what you want to do is imagine that being the top. Then you're going to drop down 2 sides, make those the same length. And you're going to drop down this, but you're going to make it shorter. Okay? Connect these 2 sides and that side. That is what you can see. Now what you have to do is you have to imagine that you're dropping this that same height, make that dashed. Okay? And then connect these, again with dashed lines, because you don't see those. And that is how you draw a rectangular prism. Now then I can just plug it in. A door is 30 inches wide, 84 inches high, so 84, and then it's thick. So this is definitely not this one. If this were going to be this one, it would be more like thin, okay? But we're not going to worry about it. We just have to be able to draw a shape. So the thickness then is 1.5, and the width is 30. Okay, and then you're just going to plug that in and find that area. But I want to make sure that you know how to draw one. And they're kind of fun to draw. If you ever walk by my house, you'll see that if I'm out drawing with sidewalk chalk, I'm drawing geometric solids because I'm just that nerdy. Okay, let's look at triangular ones. Now a triangular one, could not find anything at my house that looked like a triangular prism. So I'm going to show you, I printed one off. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is not perfect by any means, but it'll give us the idea. So with a triangular prism, what you need to understand is that you're going to have 2 bases, and they name the prism based on the base, according to the base. So here is a triangle, and here also is a triangle. So if I were talking about a prism, it would probably be upright like that. Now you'll notice each one of the sides is a rectangle. Okay, so I have those rectangles. So I'm going to have 2 triangles, and I'm going to have 3 rectangles. And the easiest way to do this one, first off, we're not going to color, we're going to trace in different colors. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to just make a little table. We're going to talk about what we have. We have 3 triangles. Sorry, that would be 1, 2. So we have our 2 bases. So we have 1 and 2. And then look at what we have. We have 1, 2, 3 rectangles. I should have made a little more space so that I could write this in there. That's okay. So what I have to do is I have to find the area of the triangle. So what I'm looking at here is that I'm going to look at this triangle right here. This triangle, that is my base, so I have to find the area of that triangle. So that's going to be 1/2 base times height. So my base is 6, so 1/2 times 1/2 times my base, which is 6, times my height, which is 4. So I have 24, half of that would be 12. Now this triangle has to be the same as that triangle, so that's also going to be 12. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace all the different rectangles that I'm doing. So I have this obvious rectangle right here. That's this one right here. It's kind of like a front side. So if I were looking at my rectangle like this, it'd be this side right here. So what is that side? Well, that's a 7 by 5. So 7 by 5. That one's 35. Okay. Now I have this rectangle back here. See this one back here? That rectangle? So what is that? Well, that's a 7 by 5, which is also 35. Then we have that bottom one. So I have this rectangle right down here. See that rectangle? What is that rectangle? Well, it's a 6 by 7. 6 by 7. So that's 42. And we're just going to add all those together, just like we did with the prism. So we're going to add all of that stuff together. Pull out your calculator, and you're just going to add all of these together. So the hardest part on this is actually just being able to see the different shapes, and that's the reason it's helpful if you can trace it. And I got 136. Now it's always better to double check, so I'm going to add them again. And I got 136 again. Now it's area, so it's going to be feet squared. Okay? Good. Let's do a couple of these, because sometimes they can be a little confusing. So here we go. Number 1 is pretty nice, and it gives me my triangle right here. So I'm going to make the table again, because it's just easier to keep track of my information. And I have 3 rectangles. Now you don't have to make this table. Some of you have a brain that's just going to keep track of your triangles. That's fine, not a problem. So first off, I look at this first, my triangle, and remember with the triangle, the height and the base have to be perpendicular. So the legs of this triangle are actually the height and distance. So I'm going to have 1/2 base times height. So 1/2 times 8 times 15. Does it matter which one's base and height? No. We just have to take the perpendicular distance to the other one. So half of 8 is 4. 4 times 15 is 60. Okay? This one's also 60 because it's the same triangle. It's going to be true unless you have a pushed over prism. Okay, now let's look at the different rectangles. I'm going to start on the bottom one. So I have this rectangle right down here, and it's easier if you trace it because then you can see what sides you're talking about. So this side, and this side. Well, what's this side? Well, that's 10. And this side is 15. Okay? Now I'm going to pull out another rectangle. I have this side. I have talking about that back one back there. See that rectangle? Okay? So that rectangle is 8 by 10, because it's this side right here. So it's an 8 by 10. Now the other rectangle is this front-facing one. So this one right here, I should have done that in a different color. Okay, so this rectangle right here. Okay, now what is that rectangle? Well, that's a 10 by 17. So 10 by 17. Okay, do you see that? 10 by 17. So this is 80 This is 170. Pull out your calculator and add. And I got 520. And I'm going to double check that right now. So I got 520 twice. So 520 inches, that's a 20, inches squared. Sorry, inches squared. Okay, good. Number 2, it's the same thing, it's just turned on its side. So it's going to give you the same thing. Let's look at the back. Let's look at the homework. Okay, but this one's not bad either. It's just, notice here is your base and height. On this triangle, the top part, so yeah, I think you'll be fine. Let's try and draw a rectangular prism. Okay, so here we go. Sorry, a triangular prism. We're going to draw a prism again. So let's try it. So I'm going to do the same one they did. I'm going to do a rectangular one. So, I'm sorry, a right triangle. So I draw a right triangle. Now I'm going to draw it up this way. So now I'm going to extend all these sides. This is the side that I wouldn't see. And what you kind of try to do is kind of eyeball, where would a right triangle go? So now I'm going to draw this, and oops, that would be dotted. Okay, so I'd have a dotted line back there. I'd go over here, now I might need to extend the side. I'd have a dotted line down here, and then this would be my solid side. Well, that wasn't so bad. Okay, so again, draw your front side. And this one, the sides of a right triangular prism. Hey, and I did it right. So play with that. That's kind of a fun thing to do. So let's look at homework for the 2 things. Why don't we definitely do, I'm on page 8 right now. Let's do 7 and 8, just so that you have to practice drawing a rectangular prism. So we're going to do 7 and 8. And then let's pick 3 here. Evens or odds, I don't really care. Let's do evens. And I circled odds. Let's do odds. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do odds. Okay, so 1, 3, 5, 7, and 8. Good, on page 8. And then on page 10, we're going to definitely do number 11, and we already drew that shape. And let's definitely do number 2, so we'll do evens on this page, 2 and 4. So 2, 4, and of course 11, because the numbering is perfect there, isn't it? Okay, so hopefully that helps. You can always replay it. We'll do cylinders tomorrow. Good. Thank you very much. And if you have questions, email me. Please email me.